Hi and good morning, everybody. Just running a few minutes late there. Had to answer a quick phone call. Good morning, Linda, Jaznaz, Darkside. Interesting today. Eunice said, "Where is Steve's case at the moment?" I said, "Well, you're going to have to bear with me. After the motion for scientific testing, Kathleen then put forward a motion for post-conviction relief, which the Circuit Court denied. She then went to the Court of Appeals. Meanwhile, the post-conviction relief was denied without Angie even having asked the state for its response, which apparently is illegal. It then went to the Court of Appeals. Kathleen then tried to supplement with the Court of Appeals the fact that Fallon handed back the CD that had been in Fassbender's possession, the CD that would have, at the time of Steve's trial, have enabled Dean and Jerry to present a third-party Denny suspect with far more motive than Steve. The Court of Appeals remanded it back to Angie, who sat on it and did nothing until she had to, and denied it. It then went back to the Court of Appeals. Again, then Kathleen finds out about the bones, so it goes back to the Circuit Court again. Angie denies it, but that's 3 times now that the case has been in front of Angie, and she's done absolutely nothing to try and, even to look at the situation and to remedy anything. And you wonder why that is, don't you? And I have no doubt when we hear some of the vitriol of some of the guilters, I would use the term hater more than a guilter. They simply don't like the Avery family. We saw that when Dolores got mail from people saying, your son's a killer, we don't want to hear from you, shut up, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there were much more nastier ones than that. And so the fact that these haters have now been proven to be wrong when they put such force and emphasis into their hatred of Steve, one can understand why they are so desperate for Steve's conviction to continue. It's ridiculous. But anyway, here we are now at the stage where the Court of Appeals has got all the supplements, the CD, the bones, and we wait on Riley and co to make a decision. Hopefully Mark Gundrum has realised how he was lulled into the political nonsense of even saying that it was like we'd met Steve and we thought he was like a normal human being with feelings, and I'm sure he's cringing at what he said then. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure it was more political. And so we are where we are, and we wait a decision. And it's pretty obvious where this case is going. Pretty sure that the Court of Appeals, the one remedy they have for the handing back of the bones is to immediately release Steve. And that would be a best case scenario, or at least to order either an evidentiary hearing or a retrial. And I can't see the state having much desire, much appetite, shall we say, for a retrial, but we wait and see. What is she doing up there? Clattering around. Anyway, hi Millbilly, hi Alice. Nice to see you. One of the things that the dude was always very keen on was for everybody to be as informed as possible, particularly when it came to people who would try to suggest that we are all lunatics believing in a huge conspiracy theory. Hold on a sec. Right, anyway. Clattering around there with cake tins and stuff. Oh dear. Anyway, let's get back to what we should be doing, which is, yes, I wanted to put this up. What do we understand by the word conspiracy? Just make sure everything is going according to plan on the old YouTube. Make sure that everything is okay. Yes, that's all looking good. Other words to conspiracy. A plot. That's what the guiltists try and sort of suggest, that we're suggesting that we think that there's this huge big plot and a scheme. And in fact, it's more of a stratagem, which has been going on for years, long before Stephen Avery and Brendan Dass's case ever came along, and it's been going on ever since. A plan, yes, very much so. A machination, yes, it very much. I think of all those words, you would imagine that Dean Strang would definitely go with machination. It is simply a machine. It's how it works. A cabal, well, yeah. When you consider Judge Sukovich, when she was a member of the Wisconsin Crime Victims' Rights Board, and the chairman was Ken Kratz. A cabal, definitely. I like this word though, an intrigue. I like that word very much. And I would just like to quote a very, very small excerpt from Mark Gods's book that really explains how the machinations work. But actors in the criminal justice system, police officers, prosecutors, judges, and so on, they don't have to respond to a market in the same way. They operate in a stilted environment where those injured by their actions, the wrongfully convicted, are not consumers of their product. They don't need to fix or tweak anything to induce those they've injured, the innocents, to come back and buy again. It simply doesn't work that way. And with the qualified immunity that the US Supreme Court has generously supplied to prosecutors and police in recent decades, which protects these actors from civil liability for their misconduct, they're rarely held accountable through their pocketbooks or in any other way. Or are they? Or are they? Let's have a look at a couple of cases. Here's a photograph of Jackie Wilson. Not the Rite Petite Jackie Wilson, another Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson outside the courthouse, flanked by his wife Sandra and daughter Candice. After a news conference outside the Leighton Criminal Court building, October 2nd, 2020. His murder case was abruptly dropped after allegations that a Cook County prosecutor lied under oath. Attorneys for a man whose third trial for a 1982 cop killing dissolved in dramatic fashion this month want to recoup more than $500,000 from prosecutors as punishment for an unparalleled pattern of sanctionable, contemptuous and unethical misconduct stretching back decades. Well, they might consider it to be unparalleled. We would definitely think differently. As I say, the one thing that dude used to say, have the information at hand, know about these other cases. And when people say to you, do you really think that all these people would conspire together to do this? You can say, I don't think it, I know it. And we've seen it so many times before. We don't need to think that there's a conspiracy going on or a machination or a plot. It's just how the system works. Jackie Wilson's lawyers are also urging Cook County Judge William Hooks to recommend an outside investigation into potential criminal conduct by prosecutors in a bizarre saga, they wrote in a new court filing this week. Now, whilst Jackie's charges were dropped outright amid significant confusion and controversy, the matter is far from over. Attorneys are expected back in court Wednesday to present and discuss their requests. Wilson, whose second conviction was thrown out in 2018 after he successfully alleged he was tortured by notorious ex-Chicago police commander John Burge, also wants a formal finding that he is innocent of the slaying. Attorneys are seeking sanctions against both Cook County prosecutors and the separate team of private attorneys appointed to prosecute Wilson in recent proceedings. Wilson alleges prosecutors tried to frame him and hid evidence for decades, most recently regarding the long friendship between a key witness and a Cook County prosecutor who handled Wilson's 1989 trial. The special prosecutors dropped Wilson's case October the 1st after the main prosecutor, Nick Trutenko, allegedly perjured himself on the stand. Trutenko was fired from the office shortly after his testimony. Wilson cannot be tried a fourth time for the murder. A representative of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office said October 2 they would be referring the Trutenko matter to outside agencies to investigate whether charges were warranted. They did not specify which agencies. A spokeswoman for the State Attorney's General Office since confirmed that they received a referral request to look into possible perjury charges against a former assistant state's attorney. As of last week, that office had not yet decided whether to take the matter on. The witness, William Coleman, was central to the case, having testified in 1989 that Wilson confessed the slaying to him when they were locked up together in Cook County Jail. Coleman was widely reputed to be a con man and a fraud with an international rap sheet. And by the time this year's trial rolled around, neither defense attorneys nor the team of private attorneys appointed to prosecute the case knew if he was alive or dead. But this month, Trutenko took the stand and said not only was Coleman still alive, but the two still kept in touch. Wilson's attorneys say the special prosecutors should have had ethical concerns about introducing transcripts of Coleman's testimony in this year's trial, given his established reputation as a liar, and they say the special prosecutors should have contacted Trutenko early on, at the very least, to make sure that their files and disclosures were complete. Wilson's attorneys wrote in one filing, the Cook County prosecutors assigned to represent the office and Trutenko's interests as a witness also knew about his friendship with Coleman and urged special prosecutors not to ask Trutenko about it. Wilson's attorneys allege, calling it an attempt to cover up the truth. Cook County State's attorneys also fought hard against disclosing a 2019 memo about allegations of misconduct against Trutenko in a separate murder case, Wilson's attorneys note. Wilson's attorneys want Trutenko to turn over all his communications with the controversial informant Coleman. Trutenko's attorney has objected, saying it would be an unwarranted invasion of privacy, and that the judge no longer has jurisdiction over the matter since the case was dropped. And according to Wilson's attorneys, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office has said Trutenko wiped his work phone clean the evening of October the 1st, just after his surprising testimony. In addition, Wilson is petitioning for a formal certificate of innocence. That designation, if granted, could be used as evidence in any civil suits he files. It also could entitle him to a significant cash payout from the state, along with potential help in finding housing and employment. The certificate would also provide a measure of finality to the proceedings, which ended without a formal finding of guilty or not guilty. The petition for innocence also could keep the matter alive in court for weeks if prosecutors object and further hearings are warranted. Hooks has called Wilson's case perhaps the most complicated Burge-related case that has surfaced. Undisputed in the case was that Wilson's brother, Andrew, fired the shots that killed Chicago police officers William Fahey and Richard O'Brien in 1982. Both brothers alleged they were tortured at the hands of police after their arrest. Wilson's first conviction was thrown out on appeal. At retrial in 1989, he was convicted of O'Brien's murder but acquitted of Fahey's. Andrew Wilson was convicted at his retrial. He died in prison in 2007. And so that was back in October. Here we are, just before Christmas. A special prosecutor is needed to probe indefensible handling of Jackie Wilson case. The troubling ending of the Jackie Wilson trial cries out for a special prosecutor to establish how a case could go so far off the rails. Again, this all just sounds so familiar. On October the 1st, special prosecutors dropped charges against Wilson, who spent more than 3 decades behind bars for a 1982 cop killing committed by his brother Andrew Wilson. On Friday, County Judge William H. Hooks officially granted Jackie Wilson a certificate of innocence. As the case unfolded this autumn, it became clear that scandalous behaviour on the part of authorities kept Wilson, who was with his brother at the time of the killing, under a cloud for so long. Wilson's third trial abruptly ended when prosecutors dropped charges after learning that Assistant State's Attorney Nicholas Trutenko, who prosecuted Wilson's second trial, concealed his relationship with jailhouse informant William Coleman, a key witness. State's Attorney Kim Fox subsequently fired Trutenko. It has been 5 years since the Illinois Torture Inquiry and Relief Commission, after an extensive investigation, found that there was credible evidence Wilson had been tortured by Chicago Police Lieutenant John Burge and his midnight crew of police officers. Along the way, key written notes were withheld from the defense. An assistant state's attorney took the Fifth Amendment. Evidence was destroyed. Prosecution witnesses were discredited, and disproved testimony was read into the record. Yet special prosecutors still brought a third case against Wilson, even as the evidence had crumbled away, while their legal meter kept ticking until it topped $600,000 of taxpayer money. Moreover, mask-wearing lawyers and court personnel were required to risk COVID-19 to go through a 2-week trial that did not need to take place. In his ruling on Jackie's certificate of innocence, Judge Hook wrote, "The court would be remiss if it did not comment on the monstrous cloud that the tortured confessions of Andrew and Jackie Wilson, the false testimony of Coleman, and the unremitting prosecutorial misconduct by ASA, Assistant Special Attorney, have a guess, I don't know, Nick Trutenko, and several other prosecutors has left over this entire case for decades. On Monday, Chief Criminal Court Judge Leroy Martin Jr., who is headed to the appellate court, said he will leave to his successor the decision on appointing a special prosecutor. That's not surprising. Martin doesn't have much time left to get up to speed on the case, but we hope that the next judge takes a good look at the case and concludes that this is one that needs a thorough airing. We need to know what went so horribly wrong." It just guilt us, hate us. It's happening all over the place. These things happen. It's very much the system. It's, we're thinking Stephen Brendan, these are one-off cases. They're not. It goes on all the time. You don't need people to conspire. You simply need them to stay quiet about things. It's just accepted. This is how things go down. Finally, a lot of you know that the dude was a keen supporter of Ricky Kidd and had him on the channel, I think, at least a couple of times. Disciplinary hearing gets underway for former prosecutor Amy McGowan will be continued to another date. Former prosecutor Amy McGowan is shown during a hearing before a Missouri attorney disciplinary panel on October 2nd, 2020. A hearing before a Missouri disciplinary panel began on Friday for a former longtime prosecutor at the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. Despite running over most of the day Friday, the hearing for Amy McGowan, who came to Douglas County just short of 15 years ago after working in Jackson County, Missouri, and who was a prosecutor in the Douglas County DA's office until her retirement late last year, will have to be continued to a later date. The hearing was about McGowan's conduct in the case of Ricky Kidd, a man who was wrongfully convicted for a 1996 double murder in Kansas City, Missouri, and spent 23 years in prison. Kidd was exonerated last August after DeKalb County Judge Darren Atkins ruled that McGowan had failed to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense. Failed to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense. If you're listening, guilters, I'll read that again. Failed to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense. including transcripts of a deposition of the people Kidd had said were responsible for the crime. The judge wrote that McGowan also withheld evidence that one of the witnesses was not believable and instead portrayed him as a heroic neighbor in her closing arguments. Ricky himself was in attendance at the virtual hearing. Testimony Friday came from 3 defense attorneys, 2 who had represented Kidd's co-defendant in the case, Marcus Merrill, and Kidd's trial attorney, Teresa Anderson. McGowan appeared with attorney John Turner, but she did not testify on Friday. It was unclear whether she will do so when the hearing continues. In his opening arguments, Turner shared information that could mitigate one allegation of misconduct against McGowan. Though Atkins wrote in his August 14, 2009 ruling that McGowan failed to disclose to Anderson some information that could have impeached the key witness who placed Kidd at the scene of the murder, Turner brought out evidence from the original case file. It showed that Anderson was actually aware of that information and had filed a motion to prevent discussion of it in court. It was not clear why the state did not bring up that motion during the hearing on Kidd's final push to be exonerated. Other issues remain. Anderson said she was not made aware of a deposition of 2 other witnesses whom she had not been able to interview and whom she believed could have been alternative suspects in Ricky's case. Once the hearing concludes, the disciplinary panel could recommend discipline, including a public reprimand, probation, suspension, or disbarment. If the panel determines disciplinary action is warranted, it will submit a recommendation in writing to the Missouri Supreme Court, which would make a final ruling. Prior to the August 4th Democratic primary election, the presumed next Douglas County District Attorney, Suzanne Valdez, told the Journal World that she was interested in pursuing a conviction integrity unit that would review cases that have been litigated to ensure that convictions were not wrongful. Valdez specifically mentioned McGowan's long tenure with the DA's office as a factor that she believes has caused the public to lose confidence in the office. Members of the public were removed from the virtual hearing before McGowan's next hearing date was announced. Let's see who's all here. I think it's all our usual suspect, Darkside and Alice, Linda. Let's go up a wee bit. Yeah, we're having a good chat there. JD, hi JD, and yeah. Oh, Disco Pervert, hi there. And Millbilly, hi Millbilly, and Paul Ward, hi Paul. Oh, got everybody there. Oh no, in a sec. Oh, you certainly have had a good blather in the chat, I see. So there, yes, I think everybody mentioned. As usual, let me know your thoughts. But just to recap, conspiracy theory, I think I prefer the term. It's just a machination. It's just how the system works, and why it works the way it does is because prosecutors aren't held accountable. One waits to see what will happen to Amy McGowan and Nick Trutenko. But it's clear to see that the noose around their necks is slowly tightening. And to guilters and haters out there, you can call it what you like. You can call it a conspiracy if you like, but that's exactly what it is. It's the way the system works. This idea that we've got loads of secret meetings going on between 10, 20, 30, 40 people. No, it's all done in plain view. It's just the way the system works. As we've discovered in Steve's case, the withholding of the CD that would have alerted Dean and Jerry straight away was done deliberately. The wording by Ken Kratz, you'll be pleased to know we've analysed Brendan's computer, and there's nothing much of evidentiary value. That's been stipulated. Anyway, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I think I've got some daughter's furniture to have to move now, so that'll be good fun. We'll catch you all again soon. Bye for now.